Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am keeping it simple. That's kind of my theme for January 2025, and I am creating a beautiful project featuring some brand new products from Altenew. These are the January release, or some of them I should say. I'll be using the new Build a Garden Flowering Quince stamps, dies, and coordinating stencil set, but I wanted to show you a couple of the other products that are available in this release, including this Tasty Treasures stamp, coordinating die, and stencil set. This is so cute and so perfect for the Valentine holiday coming up. You can see there's all these like apothecary style jars with all the sweets, and if you love to Copic color or use alcohol markers to color images, this is the perfect little set for you. The stencil set includes stencils for those apothecary jars as well as masks, which makes this perfect. And I'll be creating a shaker card over on the Altenew blog later this month featuring this set. There's also the Sugar Rush dies and coordinating stencils. So this creates an entire background of all these sweet treats, and then you can use the coordinating die to die cut all of those. Those would be perfect for a background, or you can cut them apart and use little pieces of these sweet treats to decorate a card and use it in a very simple way as well. Now here is the products that I'm featuring today, and this is the new Build a Garden Flowering Quince set. I did not know what a flowering quince was. I had to look it up, but it was so beautiful. I couldn't resist. And you can see that there's examples on the packages for the coloring, which I'm going to kind of switch to or kind of stick with today, but you can color these in any way. And finally, there is this sweet little die set. This is the houseplants, and it is a keyhole system. So these are great for creating. Altenew has a way of making it really easy. Now, something that I wanted to point out is that in these pamphlets, there are ideas for color themes. It kind of shows you how all of these stencils work with the stamped images. And I like to keep this close at hand, especially the first time I'm creating with one of these sets, so that I can kind of use it as a cheat guide, or it's not really cheating, I guess, but as a little helper as I'm creating. Now, there is a very large branch in this stamp set, but I'm starting with the smaller branch that has the fruit on it. And this time, today, I am going to stamp with a stamp block. I know, crazy times in the Sprinkled with Glitter studio. But I am inking this up with the Altenew Obsidian Pigment Ink. It is a beautiful, deep, dark, rich black ink. I'm stamping it onto some white cardstock. That's perfect for ink blending because I am going to be doing some ink blending. And then I'm taking that half fruit there, stamping it with that same obsidian ink, and I'm going to cover this entire thing with some clear embossing powder. And that's because I didn't really want to wait for this ink to dry before I started all of my blending over the top using the stencils. So this way I can have that dark, deep, rich black image, but it will also have a little bit of clear shine as well, and I can get started on all of my stenciling right away. So I'm just taking my heat tool and melting that embossing powder, and then I'm going to place this on my 9x12 ultra sticky grid mat here. This is perfect for stenciling. And I have the coordinating stencil. I'm just going to tilt it until it lines up. And I did do a little bit of masking around the edges because this particular stencil colors this entire image, and I didn't want to accidentally take my brush and go over into one of those other areas. It probably didn't matter so much because I'm going to be die cutting this out in the end, but I was just taking all the precautions here. Now I have left all of the stenciling in here, and I'm working my way through kind of the lightest to the darker greens. I'm adding a little bit of shading into some areas, extra colors onto certain layers just to kind of bump up the contrast. But you can see I'm just doing really some simple blending. I'm using mostly the small ink blending brushes, or I should say the mini ink blending brushes from Altenew, but I'll also bring in one of the micro blending brushes on this layer here to add just a touch of this coral red towards the center of these particular petals of the flowers. And you can see all of this is contained on one stencil, so I'm just readjusting the stencil, getting it into place, and moving on with my colors. I'm using some of my favorite pinks on this, which includes Pink Pearl, Coral Bliss. I'm also bringing in some yellows because after Googling, I discovered that a quince is actually a fruit that is yellow. It kind of reminds me of a pear in a way, but you can see I'm just kind of sticking really closely to the recommended colors. But keep in mind, because you're only limited by your imagination, you can make these any color that you want. Now, once I get everything stenciled, I'm going to take the coordinating dies, which is available for the Build-A-Garden in an add-on. So in the Build-A-Garden, you're going to get the stamp set and the coordinating stencils, and then you can add on the dies if you choose. So I'm taking those coordinating add-on dies, I'm lining them up over my stamped and stenciled images, running them through my die cut machine, and now I have a couple of images ready to go on my card front. Now for the sentiment, I am using the Just Because sentiment. This is from that same Flowering Quince Build-A-Garden stamp set, and I'm stamping it using that Obsidian black ink along the bottom of an A2 size card front. So this measures 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. It's just a panel at this point. Once I've stamped it in that Obsidian Pigment Ink, again, I am going to use some clear embossing powder over the top, and I'm going to heat set this. This is going to give it that shine, a little bit of dimension, but it's also going to keep it kind of matching the Flowering Quince images that I've already used on this card project. Now, I am really into black and white and this bright green at this moment. It's very Kate Spade. So I'm trimming down a piece of cardstock. This is the Hunter Green cardstock from Altenew's Crafty Necessity cardstocks, and I'm laying it across the bottom of this card front and lining it up with the top of that stamped sentiment here because I'm going to create a peekaboo effect with this layer. I'm going to hold it in place with a little bit of the Altenew satin masking tape, and I'll run that through my die cut machine, and you can see when I add this layer over the top, that little sentiment is going to peekaboo through that layer. Now to give this a little bit of texture, because it felt a little flat, I grabbed the Rustic linen stamp set from Altenew and I'm inking it up with, I think, the medium green color that I used, maybe the light green color that I used here. I think it's field green, maybe we'll see it there. And I'm just going to lay this layer right over the top of the inked area and press it on to that cardstock. I'm using the same piece of scrap paper that I used to catch all of my extra embossing powder there. And this is going to give it just a little bit of texture. And then I can take this and flip it over, add some tape runner adhesive to the back of this layer and adhere it onto the card front. I didn't want to add dimension at this point because, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, January is my month for keeping it simple, and that comes to card making as well. I figured it was a really easy way to kind of ease myself into the new year. So I'll position that onto the card front, press it down, and now I'm grabbing my images and I've added some foam adhesive along the back, and I'm going to nestle them right around that sentiment and that layer and just place them kind of overlapping. I think these images are very beautiful. I did end up trimming off a little bit of the excess here that's hanging over with a pair of long scissors so that everything's nice and clean. And then I trimmed this down a little bit as well because I wanted to mat this onto a card base. I only trimmed off about 1/4 of an inch along that right-hand side and the bottom, and that seemed to be the perfect amount. Now I grabbed some clear confetti pieces and I'm adhering them using my Perfect Picker tool from Altenew. I like to call it my magic wand, and I'm adhering those using a little bit of liquid glue. That little magic wand really does make all the difference when you're kind of placing small pieces like this. Now I really wanted to add a little sub-sentiment, so I grabbed one from that Flowering Quince stamp set. I stamped it onto some Rouge cardstock using some coordinating ink, and then I trimmed that down into a layer there, and I'm just gonna kind of tuck it below. It says, "Just because I adore you." I added a little bit of foam adhesive along the back so that it would kind of sit even with that piece of fruit that I have there, and I placed it onto the card front. It adds a little bit of pop of color down there, which I absolutely love. And then I'll finish my card off by scoring a piece of this same Rouge cardstock at 4¼ inches. So it's cut to 5½ by 8½ and then scored at 4¼ inches. I'll add that onto my card base using some foam adhesive, and that's going to finish off my simple card with that peekaboo greeting to jumpstart my card making in 2025. I love these Build-A-Garden sets. They are released monthly from Altenew, and this particular one, when you buy it in the set, comes with one of the mini ink blending tools, which I think is perfect. Now, as always, I will have links to the featured products used in this project in the description at YouTube. So if you're looking for something in particular, be sure you check there, or you can head on over to my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com. I'll have that linked below as well. Over there, you'll find more still shots, more information, and a complete list of supplies. Don't forget to head on over to Instagram as well, because this card project is a part of an Instagram hop celebrating this brand new release from Altenew for January 2025. There's tons of inspiration and prizes to be had, so be sure to join me over there. As always, I want to say thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed this project, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications here so you don't miss any of the paper crafting and card making video tutorials I share, as well as my YouTube lives where I create and craft and chat live with all of you. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.